So remember last week when we had that spell of gloriously warm weather? Did any of you ask yourself and wonder if the weather was weird and how hot it was in April? Well, we certainly did. And my name is Ian, and I am a co-founder of Is My Weather Weird with my good friend Tom and Catherine, who's in the audience. Tom and I are both finishing our PhDs in environmental engineering this year. And in addition to working on Is My Weather Weird, I've also done work in the field of renewable energy, water and sanitation development, as well as climate research and advocacy. And before coming to Berkeley as a Chancellor's Fellow, Tom worked at MIT, and that's where he polished his data science skills. And Catherine is our expert on human-centered design and market research. She is finishing her MBA right now in design strategy and has been working as a strategic consultant for several successful Bay Area startups, such as GoldieBlox. You may have seen their commercial in the last Super Bowl. I met Catherine at Cornell University, where we were leaders in the campus's sustainability and climate movements. But in addition to the three of us, Lance and Eric comprise of our professional mobile app development team. And we think that this team has a unique blend of environmental science, data science, advocacy, market research, and mobile app development expertise that can launch a big idea into reality. So let's go back to weather. So other than us in this room, who else thinks about weird weather? Well, I will argue that everybody at some point has experienced weird weather and has asked themselves this question. Not only that, the reason for this can be as big as climate change concern or as small as, well, small talk. And not only that, we find that people have been talking about and discussing the weird weather occurring recently over social media, over the internet, and has been covered by news agencies all over the map of political ideology and leanings. And so the chatter and the talk about weird weather will only increase as climate change, as the climate warms. And so as climatologists say, climate is what you expect, weather is what you get. And so as our expectation of what is happening in the climate changes, there are dire consequences. And some of these consequences can be extremely costly. Too little rain in California, too much rain in the Pacific Northwest, heat wave in the Midwest, polar vortex in the East, and the list goes on. And so if everybody cares about this, and it's a consequence, and it's a consequential topic, and we need to know about it, why is it that we cannot find out if our weather is weird today? So here's where our solution comes in.
All right, thanks, Ian. So our solution to this missing critical piece of weather information we call our weird weather score. Starting with long-term historic records for 5,000 locations around the globe, we simply compare them with today's weather using some relatively sophisticated statistics and machine learning techniques. We develop our weird weather score on a scale of 0 to 4, which says how weird the weather is today, or how often the weather today used to happen, given old climate conditions, not given how things used to be. We can use this weird weather score to communicate to people via an app, an API, and a website. And a simple extension of the methods that we use for the weird weather score can also be used to calculate climate status updates, your local climate status updates. So it can tell you where you are. Is your climate changing rapidly, slowly, or not at all? To accomplish this, we've already finished the first version of the data backend. We have a demo version of the website that's live now that shows you can go look today at ismyweatherweird.com to see how weird the weather is around the globe. Following initial seed funding, within 3 months, we'll launch a free version of the app in partnership with climate advocacy organizations that have active member bases of over 2.5 million. This will allow us to reach about 250,000 of these digital environmentalist early adopters, and in return offer the climate organizations a unique opportunity to engage their constituency. Following what we learned from these early adopters, we'll launch a premium paid version of the app targeted at weather enthusiasts, of which there are 5 million with a demonstrated willingness to pay for a premium weather app in the United States alone. This initial revenue will allow us to break even in about 18 months. And following this is what the idea is to make the Weird Weather Score part of everyone's weather. Through digital subscriptions and through partnerships with traditional and digital media. Whether you get your weather information from a website, from an app, from a newspaper, or from the evening news, you'll finally know if your weather's weird. Our app is called Is My Weather Weird? We thank you very much for your attention, Berkeley. Go Bears.
Impact, how could someone use this to either do better prediction in terms of crops or if they do some correlation and say, okay, last month, we're expecting, we're getting the score of 4 consistently, so, this is how it's going to impact the crops, or, what could be, have you thought through what are the similar, how would you monetize it effectively, right? How valuable is the data?
No, it's a good question. Well, are you familiar with a company called Climate Corporation that was just bought by Monsanto for about, I think it was $1.5 billion, that basically is doing exactly what you said. And they, to be frank, what they were doing with climate data was the motivation, at least part of the motivation for this app. I was looking at it from the other perspective, saying, well, what they're offering is they have protected knowledge of what's happening with the climate and weather, and they'll offer you a supplementary insurance based on their knowledge. It's a win-win, I think, for the farmers. But I was more interested in communicating that knowledge directly, saying, this is what we know about the climate. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to hide it behind an actuarial table, but rather lay it out on the table for you to do what you will with it. So yes, there are certainly models for which to extend this data, and actually, based on conversations with folks there, I think that our approach is at least as sophisticated as theirs. So there is that potential.
The disaster preparedness and public health communities always strike a balance between enough information to make people aware versus too much information to unnecessarily spark panics.
Right.
If we expand knowledge of how unusual weather is and unify the social sense of weirdness, do we risk panic?
I think it depends on I think it's a philosophical question. Do people deserve to know? Do people deserve to have this information? Are we going to keep them from information, or are we going to provide it and then let them decide what to do with it? I fall strongly on the side of providing the information in an accessible way and then letting people do what they will with it. I don't think there'll be panic from it. I think that people already have an intuition about these things. I think that when people think the weather's weird, it typically is. And this is a way of validating or sometimes invalidating that intuition.
And what's more is knowing that your weather is weird perhaps will motivate you to do something about it. And a lot of the things that we need to do as a country is to motivate change and to engage our political system. And we believe that an auxiliary benefit of this is that the conversation will become a little more clear in terms of what is happening around the world. And we'll have some legitimate data and geographic information that can supply people with the ability to talk more clearly about that.
Can you talk a little bit more about what's so unique about, can some other 2 PhDs come up with the same thing in 6 months?
No, it's a good question. I mean, like as Ian laid out at the beginning, I think that we do have a unique blend that gives us a first-to-market advantage here. I think one of our advantages will be probably more in terms of brand identity. Establishing the Weird Weather Score as the destination for people to find this information. I think that
Can you add in your ideas here?
There's some questions around that. Yeah, we probably and we're looking into that. Yeah.
Are you a data company or a media company?
We're a data company.
So is today's weather weird?
Come to the demo day. We'll find out.
Yeah.
right, thank you guys.